Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Relentless Love podcast. I hope y'all are doing well, enjoying this sunshine after some crazy weather. Man, one day it was like 30 degrees, and then 3 days later it was like 90 degrees. So I hope y'all are okay. Your sinuses are okay with all these allergens in the air. Um, I took off last week. I didn't plan on it, but my body and my babies were like, we need you. So I took a little break, a station break, little Easter egg for my sister. That's something my mom would always say. Sheila needs a station break. That's what she would say. And I needed a station break. So I took it. So hopefully that's okay. It was spring break in our part of Texas. We're in DFW. So yeah, we are Relentless Love. If you don't know, check us out, relentlesslub.com. But our heart is to help people discover and live out their purpose, and to do that relentlessly with passion and purpose, both in life and in marriage, in relationships. So that's what we're about. I hope you like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I think we're on Spotify, all the things. So you can catch up if this is your first episode. And if not, I hope y'all are enjoying season 4. So this month, since it is International Women's Month and all that female power, all that goodness, I wanted to talk about just how my life has been shaped in different ways. The first week I talked about just my childhood and upbringing and how that shaped me into the woman that I am. Last time I talked about my in-between young adult years and just how formative those were, especially for my spiritual journey. And then this time I wanted to share about motherhood and marriage. Let me reverse it. Marriage and motherhood. That's the appropriate order. But just how that shapes me. And for me, they kind of happen at the same time. So I'm going to share about that. But before I do, just a fun fact about me, I actually did not want to be married, y'all. I was very content being single. Obviously, if you heard, what was it, episode 4 or 5, I talked about being a product of a broken home, experiencing divorce. And I didn't want that. I just was like, I can do bad by myself, right? We hear that in the Black community. And so I heard that over and over, saw what my mom went through, and I was like, I'm good. But I wanted kids, which is crazy. So I was like, you know what? Me and my foolishness, being young. And I was like, I want to have kids, so maybe I'll do artificial insemination. So anyway, I didn't think that through, or what that even looks like. I know that's very common now, in vitro and surrogacy and all of that, but that thought was like wild at my age to be thinking like that. But anyway, God got my mind right. And I found Mr. Jones. And y'all know the story. If you don't know the story, go check out season 1. We have a beautiful story. Our Relentless Love story is amazing. So go check it out. But today I want to share 5 ways that marriage and motherhood shaped me. And, it's funny. I tell couples all the time in coaching. I actually was just working with a new couple last night or the night before. Yeah, I don't know what day it is, y'all. Spring is crazy. But they're, approaching marriage, not even engaged yet. So shout out to them for being proactive and getting ready, getting their minds right and their hearts right for marriage. But I always tell couples, nothing shows you how selfish you are like marriage does. Man, it brings out the best in you, but it reveals the worst in you. I mean, if you don't do that work, and Brock and I didn't, we didn't do premarital, man, and I can speak for myself now. Brock would say the same. And he's always been open and honest. He was always open and honest about his struggles. But man, it shaped me, and it shook me in a lot of ways. And so y'all have heard some of the stories, but I want to talk about the specific ways that it did. So one of the first ways that marriage, like I said, we got married young. I was 24, and then we had a honeymoon baby. So I became a wife and a mom within a matter of 9 months. My son came early, actually. And so there really wasn't time to, experience one or the other. It was a tug of war between the two, and learning how to balance and find the way to prioritize appropriately being a wife, a new wife, and a mother. And it wasn't always easy. I didn't always do it right because there were times that my husband didn't feel like a priority. And I know naturally for women, it's easy to lean in, right, and be comforted by a child, because there's just a way that a child loves you that's so unique and special. And so having to learn how to embrace and balance both of those loves at the same time wasn't easy, and then of course trying to get my relationship with the Lord right. So I think the first way that both of them shaped me was I learned how to yield. That was one of the biggest struggles, I think, in my marriage in general, was coming into a marriage, not having known each other long, and me being this strong woman. Check out the 2 episodes on being, an independent woman, strong woman. I think we have part 1 and 2 of the strong woman. A lot of insight that if you're a strong woman, or if you're married to one, or you might, I don't know, you never know what God will give you. But it's just a different world, a different approach and mindset when you are a strong woman. So again, not even wanting to be married, and then I find myself married, I had to learn how to yield to my husband. I was making power moves at 19, 20, you know what I'm saying? And so I had to learn how to, I don't even want to say submit because people don't fully understand it. I had to learn how to yield, meaning I was very driven, focused. I had a plan. We didn't quite have a plan together. So I had to learn to yield. If you were taught right in driver's ed, yield. You're not necessarily stopping, but you have to slow down to make way for a car that has the right of way, or they don't have the ability to slow down, whatever the case may be. I had to learn how to yield to my husband, yield to his desires, yield to his comfort level, yield to his pace. That was a big challenge in our marriage, our pace. I operate at a different pace than my husband did, which can create a lot of conflict and tension, but it's a good thing. And just like iron sharpens iron, and that brings out the best in a friendship, there's friction in that. And so me being a faster pace, my husband having to think and process a little slower, it forced me to learn how to yield. So submitting is one thing, but the yielding, right? So that you are not moving on your own terms, on your own time, because now you become one with the person. And I think we've talked about it before. People talk about being unequally yoked. And what that means is a yoke of oxen. So you use these 2 animals, powerful animals, to do agricultural work, and you put the yoke around the neck, and it's like this wood block. So imagine 2 people side by side. If you're not moving at the same pace, that's where you feel a lot of the struggle. I mean, it almost is like it's choking the life out of you until the other one yields and you're moving at the same pace. And so that took a process of time. I think the first 3 years was a struggle for me, but I learned with the help of the Holy Spirit and just breaking, refining, pruning. If you haven't read, the Beautiful Exchange devotional, a lot of just the struggles in our marriage and how it slowed me down, and it just transformed even my relationship with the Lord. So learning to yield to my husband, his pace, but also to kids. So when you have kids, again, me being this driven woman, I had visions and dreams, but there was a season that I laid those down. I felt the Lord lead me to do that. And so I yielded to the different needs of my family. There were times I was enjoying a career and I said, you know what? I'm not able to move forward. This is as far as I can go because my family needs me. My home needs me. So just yielding to your husband, to your wife, if you're a man listening, but also to your kids, right? And just paying attention to what's going on, the dynamics in the home. And sometimes they need more time and attention. And because we homeschool, I needed to give myself a little bit more in those seasons. So yielding was the number one way that marriage and motherhood shaped me. And when I want to make sure I emphasize too is yielding, considering, right? It doesn't mean you can't do, right? Because I'm very entrepreneurial. So there were things that I did on my own, like it was my thing and not our thing, but I needed to consider what is serving the best interest of my marriage, what is serving the best interest of me and my kids and our future. And so yielding is a huge thing. It's not just about time or intention, but also considering the heart and the well-being of the whole unit, because we're one, right? We're one in a marriage, and then a family, a nuclear family is a unit too. And the goal is for us to move together in power. So yielding was the number one way. Second way was my tongue. My goodness, I had to learn to tame my tongue. Thankfully, I spent a lot of time meditating on James, the book of James in the Bible, learning about my tongue. Even before I got married, growing up, I think I came from a line of very strong women. My husband did too. So I think he liked that about me. But it's something about when you're dating someone, it's cute, right? And you like it, when you have a little sassy, all of that. But then when you get married, it's like, wait a minute, girl, who you talking to? You disrespecting me. So we had to figure that out. But like I said, I had been doing a lot of self-work. And in fact, I probably overcompensated. I turned my voice down too much. Because what I realized is when I was younger, I didn't know my spiritual gifts then, but knowing them now, like God would show me things, and he even gave me a spirit of wisdom that was always beyond my years. And I'm a fast learner. And so my ability to understand things, I would speak just out of ignorance and not being discipled or mentored and shown how to hone in my strengths. They were strengths, but when they're dialed up too loud, right, they can become a weakness, or they can hurt or harm people. So I hurt a lot of people growing up with my words. I was remember 2 episodes ago talking about my childhood. I had a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, resentment. I was just hurt. I had a lot of wounds. And so because of that, my tongue was just a way that I, anger. I don't know. It's just a way. I even see it with one of my daughters. When you're strong and you're hurting, you tend to lean on the anger side of things, and you lash out with your words. We hear it all the time, hurt people hurt people. So I found myself hurting people even when I wasn't trying to. I remember even trying to be helpful, and my help was taken in the wrong way because I didn't understand tone. I didn't understand, I had, if I was maybe a little judgmental or hypercritical. Because of my spiritual giftings, I've learned that about myself. I have to be careful and balance it with love and grace. Otherwise, it can feel very sharp and harsh and cold and direct. Command is one of my top strengths. And it's because I thrive in moments of crisis. And, when decisions have to be made, as part of the leader that I am. And so in the wrong environment, or if I'm not in a healthy place, that can come off as cold or callous or demeaning. And so imagine, getting into a marriage, I had to learn how to reel that in even more. And so there was a season that I turned my voice all the way down. I also didn't feel like I had a voice with my husband yet. So it took some time to find the balance, right? Because as a woman, you don't want to turn your voice off, because God really wants both the husband and the wife, their voice, to then speak into the children and help shape them. But it took me a while to find that, especially because my husband is very vocal, very opinionated. And I didn't know how to handle conflict. So I just shut down. I suppressed. I kept my thoughts to myself because I felt like they weren't valued. So, there was a part of me refining my tongue and being disciplined with it, but also not shutting down and not shrinking back either. And so it took, I don't know, it may have taken almost 10 years, definitely at least 7. I was kind of finding my footing. But by 10, I think I understood, okay, this is my leadership capacity. This is the lane that I run in as a wife. And we were able to run together. Um, and man, it was beautiful, up until the end. It was very beautiful when I found that. But it was a process. So, I had to grow up. And my husband too. My husband had to learn how to step back and sit back and make room for me. Man, even I don't know if I shared this in the updates episode, but even the Monday before my husband passed, we were training together. We were on a training call, and I just remember like he was tired and he was like, babe, you got it, you got it. And there were several other events and experiences before that he was like, babe, you got it, like you go to the front, I'm a play the background, which I was always the one to play the background. So anyway, over time I learned the need and importance of taming my tongue, because a wife has this unique power and influence to either build up your home with your words. Proverbs talks about that, or you can tear it down. And to be honest, even more than my words, like with my husband, I realized my facial expressions. He called me a mystery all the time. Like he would always say, what are you thinking right now? I'm like, I'm not thinking anything. He's like, no, there's something behind that face. And I'm like, I don't know. And so I realized my facial expressions even can be impactful when it comes to my husband and my kids, and they feed off of that. Yes, sir. Workman Junior High. Sorry, y'all. This real life. Son is stepping in to help me out. The girls are at track practice. So yes, I'm playing hooky. Sorry, Stealth Track Club. But anyway, yeah, so learning to tame my tongue, but also being aware and conscious of my body language. My husband was big on that body language. And it is true that it speaks louder than words sometimes. And so tone, your presence, how you present, and all of that. So that marriage and motherhood have shaped me in that. Even with my kids, that mama look, right? So it can work in your favor. But then I also realized, man, I don't want my kids to be so gripped with fear or anxiety because of, that stern look and all of that. So I've had to just learn and grow and be aware of that. And then so that learning to yield, learning to tame my tongue. The third is not taking myself too seriously. Again, because I just have gone through a lot of hardship, and just my personality, my wiring. I'm just more business-like, more focused, very disciplined, self-motivate, all of those things that help you perform and thrive. But then I can struggle to have fun and play and relax. And so, number one, my marriage, I'm so thankful that, we hear opposites attract. But I just believe God knows what we need. And my husband was so playful, so jovial, just the life of the party. He balanced me so well. And I think, it was uncomfortable at first because we were so different. Like I would say more introverted. Definitely he's more outgoing, extroverted. And so I didn't always want to do the things he wanted to do. But as I yielded, right, it's coming full circle, learning to yield and give in to when he's, wanting to just play fight or different things, that at the time felt annoying. Now I miss those things because it helped me to relax. It put me at ease. It helped created these moments that were so special and memorable, and I'm grateful for those. So definitely learning how to not take myself so seriously. And he's so silly. He would find any reason to laugh with me, at me, and the kids too. And so I've just learned to laugh more, being a wife, being a mom. In fact, that's one of the scriptures I stand on, from Proverbs 31. She laughs at the future. And so it's just a reminder for me to laugh more, to relax, to not be so serious, not be so intense. If you know me, I'm just intense. I'm not trying to be, it's just who I am. And so God knows he just placed me with somebody so lighthearted so that I wouldn't be so deep and intense. So I'm thankful for that. And that's made the grief journey a lot easier because I have so many joyful, funny, silly memories with that crazy guy that I love and miss so much. And my kids, they are, man, they are barrels of fun. Even my son, I'm thankful that he's found that because he was kind of in this, I don't know, cloud, even like before his dad passed, like he was just kind of, I don't know. It maybe it's when hormones are changing, but he had this dark season, but he laughs more and dances more and just does improv things, and all my kids are that way and very creative. So I love that marriage and motherhood has made me just more lighthearted, more creative, just stepping outside the box a little bit more. All right, number 4, I've learned how to serve sacrificially. So marriage is all about service. I was telling the couple last night, love is not a feeling. You don't do things based on how you feel. If you truly, genuinely love somebody, it's a choice, it's an action. And so learning how to, when I don't feel like cooking, but I need to make sure my family is fed, I'm going to get up and go do it. And I'm thankful that I had a husband that was willing to do that too. When I was grieving the loss of my mother, one of the big things that I couldn't do, I didn't have the capacity to cook and plan meals. And he stepped up and did that. And so in a lot of ways, I served. There were just so many things that I did, to support my husband's dreams, support his business, help build it, help him to become the man of God that God wanted him to be, doing that without needing credit or wanting credit, sacrificing my dreams and job opportunities. I mentioned that already. And I'm not saying that to get a pat on the back, but just to say, like, this is what love does, right? And so I learned that, and it shaped me. It made me better. I wasn't better because of the things I was achieving. I was better because I learned how to love like Christ. And a husband loves his wife like Christ of the church. But the church loves its savior. It loves the bridegroom by serving, by giving the life back. And so, yeah, I'm still doing that, trying to keep the legacy going, trying to serve my kids now more, even though it's just one of me. So I'm doing what I can. Yeah. And just, it's amazing. I remember getting this word years ago. I think I talked about it in a beautiful exchange, that God was just stretching like my heart to love so deeply. And I saw that. I saw that with my husband and with my kids and with everyone we've discipled and all the people we pour into. God will give you what you need to love and to serve if you look to him to do that. So, and it's brought out a beautiful side of me. I think by nature, I'm not the most nurturing, comforting, like I'm the mom, like, get up, suck it up. You all right? But I am a lot softer in some ways. In fact, my son will definitely say that we've gotten softer with the girls, just letting them slide with things. So anyway, so yielding, taming the tongue. What else? Oh, I forgot the third one. Oh, not taking myself too seriously, serving sacrificially, and then finally learning to give grace, extend grace, and to forgive. That's probably the hardest one for me because by nature, so one of the things I didn't talk about, but in my young adult years, there's many careers I could have like thrived at because of my wiring. Being an attorney is one. The reason I leaned away is because I didn't like public speaking. That's the one class I failed, y'all. Just fun facts. The one class I failed in college. Anyway, but yeah, I keep records. I can remember like accounting, all of that. I like, so keeping record of wrong. Oh man, holding a grudge when I was younger. Remember that bitterness, anger, resentment. So getting married and learning, oh, you got to forgive every day, and sometimes multiple times in a day. And over the years, it stretched me. And, if you know our story, forgiving my husband, even with infidelity, he talks about he talked about the time where he kind of stepped out when we were separated. But even when we were together, there were times that because I wasn't building him up with my words, right? My tongue wasn't quite there yet. And my respect, I wasn't yielding. Then he was looking for affirmation and attention and affection in the wrong places. And so I had to take ownership of that. Yes, he had to take ownership of his part, but God checked me and he spoke to me. I think it was Psalm 103. Like, you look like you're doing everything right on the outside, but your heart towards your husband is not completely right. And so, long story short, our season of separation and almost going through divorce, really, it broke me too. Even though by, the looks of things, I was right, but my heart wasn't. And that God always cares about that. When he looks at conflict, when he looks at even divorce, and listen, there's no judgment or shame if you go through divorce. My point is, God cares about us taking ownership of what we contribute to the dysfunction in a relationship. There's always two sides to a conflict, to dysfunction. It's never just one person. It's never just one side. And so if you are divorced and you're hoping to be married again, or even just to be in a healthy friendship or anything, you have to recognize, man, what can I learn from that? And so anyway, I had to recognize, man, I was just holding things against my husband. I had expectations that were too high, and I had to learn to release a lot. And so God gave me this supernatural ability really to forgive, to the point that I didn't even remember some of the things that my husband had done, that he had wronged me. And so I was able to pursue him even when he wasn't interested in pursuing me. And I don't take credit for that. That was the Lord. And I'm so thankful because of the peace I have now, even in the midst of my loss. The love that God gave me, the grace he gave me for him, was really an example of the great. In fact, God said that, how dare you hold anything against him when I kept no record of all your wrongs. I forgave you. As far as east is from west, you can forgive him. And so I would encourage you, if you walk through hard things in a relationship, God can help you forgive if it's his will for things to work out. Sometimes it's not, but anyway, I learned how to give grace and forgive. Now, I will tell you what's hard right now, especially now that I'm a single mom. It is hard when you're tired and you're weary and you've been serving sacrificially and you've been yielding. I've been doing all the things, and then my kids acting up. And God is like, okay, but I still loved you and I still gave you grace when you were at odds with me, when you are the child that is ungrateful. And so I'm like, okay, God, all right. So that's my current struggle. But it's shaping me, it's stretching me, it is refining me, it's bringing out more Christ-like character in me as I'm struggling to do that with less support, and I don't have my teammate, and so now it's just me. So I'm having to give way more grace to my kids while still disciplining them. That's a challenge I'm learning. And to forgive them and not make them feel shame or condemnation because they're growing and making mistakes. So anyway, it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot, but I'm so thankful. Marriage is beautiful. It's a blessing. Motherhood is beautiful. It's a blessing. It has brought out the best. And like I said, it's revealed the worst in me. But the worst, I'm able to lay it at God's feet, let him heal, let him restore, let him reconfigure. And I don't know. I'm far from perfect. I'm definitely a work in progress. In fact, pardon the noise, there's work in progress in my house. But I'm doing the best I can with what I have. And God knows the intention of my heart. And I believe he's pleased. I believe he is. So I hope this is encouraging to you. Lean into your strengths, but don't deny your weaknesses. Be honest, be real about them, and lean into marriage and the beauty of the marriage relationship to help round you out. That spiritual sandpaper that rubs out the rough edges. And the same in motherhood, it gives you a greater capacity to love and be loved. So I hope you got a good takeaway. Take at least one thing that you can apply or be encouraged by. And y'all have a great week. I'll see y'all next time.